Let's try to learn what are parametric and non-parametric tests. Now, if you use SPSS, most of the times you are going to face this problem whether to use a parametric test or non-parametric test. That's a vital choice for a researcher. So what they are? The first person to talk about parametric and non-parametric tests was somebody called Jacob Wolfowitz. Jacob Wolfowitz in 1942 tried to draw a distinction between those tests which make assumption about the nature of a variable in their population. Now why this assumption is important? If you already know about the population and you develop a test on the basis of those assumptions or apply a test, then in that case your results will be more generalizable, isn't it? For example, suppose you are studying the age variable and you want to find out some conclusion about the age, and you already are aware like how the age is distributed in the population, entire population, say Indian population or say American population. And whatever test you are going to use in that case is going to give you a more generalizable result. While in other case, when you are not aware about the features of like say variable that you are studying, especially in the population, then you are not going to create a situation where the results would be generalizable. So that was the beauty of parametric tests, and that's why your researcher, supervisor or journal editor often nudges you, if not asks you, to use parametric tests more often as compared to non-parametric tests, because these are the tests whose results are more generalizable as compared to non-parametric tests, because in that case we are sure about the distribution or like say nature of variables in its population. So if you understand this, then we can draw certain distinctions between parametric and non-parametric tests. So what are the distinctions? Now, whatever I'm going to mention here is not an exhaustive list of like say distinctions between parametric and non-parametric tests, but these are the most common distinctions that one should keep in mind while choosing a suitable test. So first important assumption of parametric tests like your t-test and or like say jet test is the normality of distribution. So you understand that a normal distribution is a bell-shaped distribution. So the variable that you are studying, if it is normally distributed in its population, then we say that the variable is a normally distributed variable, or the variable has been drawn from a population which has the normal distribution of that variable. For example, if you are studying the age variable in India, it means the age variable is normally distributed in the entire Indian population. But the point is that we are not studying the population, we are just studying the sample. Then what's point of believing in this? Okay, the age variable is normally distributed in the population. It doesn't make any sense, because all in all you are studying a small sample. The idea is that if you take a sufficiently large sample, in that case the distribution of age in your sample will approximate to a normal distribution. And that's why your supervisor or like say journal editor, though editors never ask you to do this, people generally recommend you to take large samples. Why they recommend you to take large samples? Because if you take large sample, it means in that case you are going to create a normal distribution for the variable that you are studying. So that's why it's important to take a large sample. In fact, that is known as the central limit theorem. If you keep on drawing the large sample from the population, you are going to create a normal distribution. While in case of non-parametric test, it's not guaranteed. You might not be aware of the distribution of the variable. It might be highly skewed, positively skewed or negatively skewed. So we can say in this case we are having a non-normal distribution. Then second important assumption of parametric test is homogeneity of variance. It means what? When you are taking like say different groups for comparison, so in that case whatever the variance of score in one group should be equal to variance of score in other group up to say n number of groups. For example, you are taking a comparison between three different types of therapies. For example, the psychodynamic therapies, behavioral therapy or cognitive therapy. So in that case, the distribution or the variance of the scores for each of these three subsamples, psychodynamic, behavioral and cognitive, must be approximately same. So that is the homogeneity of variance condition. While this condition might be violated in case of a non-parametric test. So we can say variance of one sample might not be equal to variance of other sample, which might not be equal to variance of say nth sample. So normality of distribution, homogeneity of variance, and third is independence of observations. So independence is third important criteria. It means whatever persons you have taken to study in group 1 in no way affect the score of persons in study 2. So we have taken suppose three groups, like say one is for cognitive therapy, another is for like say behavioral therapy, and this for like say psychodynamic therapy. And if you measure the stress of person who has been treated by like say this therapy, then it doesn't affect the stress of person who has been treated by say some other therapy in like say behavior group, XB for the behavior group and XP for the psychodynamic group. These groups, these scores are independent of each other, so they are not influencing their score in any way. The fourth important condition is randomness. So randomness means all the subjects who are part of your study should be randomly selected. It means you have randomly drawn your sample. So it means you are going for a probability sampling method. You must be remembering your sampling class, which says that there are two types of sampling method. One is probability sampling method and another is the non-probability sampling method. And random sampling method is a type of probability sampling method in which we draw subjects by using some random criteria. For example, we can take every third or like say every fifth subject, or we can take a random number generator, or by using just a fishbowl sampling method we can randomly select subjects by using some cheat or random algorithm. So random sampling is the fourth important criteria. Then one more like say corollary of all these could be your data should be measured on the interval scale. Now you must be knowing all in all there are four types of scales that we use in social science measurement, and they are the nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale and ratio scale. Nominal scales are perfectly categorical measurement like say male and female, while ordinal scales are the scales in which the categories can be rank ordered like say height of the students in a class that can be arranged in a short height, medium height or tall height. While interval scale data is the kind of data in which the quantity of measurement between two intervals of a scale remains constant throughout the scale. The typical example is the Likert type of scale. So if you are using a Likert kind of arrangement, it means you are having an interval measure and you can go for a parametric test. Let me tell you just for the sake of information that interval scale is the most commonly used type of measurement scale in the social science research especially. And if you are using like say ratio scale, which has like say interval property as well as the absolute zero, that's wonderful. So these are the four five criteria which generally your data should fulfill. In that case, you can go for a parametric test. First, normality of distribution. So the variable should show a normal shape, and the idea is that they are normally distributed in the population, and if you have taken a sufficiently large sample, then it's going to reflect in the sample as well. Second, homogeneity of variance. So different groups that you are using must have the same variances. Third is the independence of observation. So observation of one candidate or subject in no way affect the observation from another candidate or subject. And then we have the randomness as the fourth criteria. So the samples must be randomly drawn from the population, while the measurements have been taken on the interval scale at least.